I need every male over 60 who engages in masturbation to hear this right now. Your sexual vitality may be being depleted by practices you are unaware of. I've witnessed folks battle with diminished confidence, waning sensitivity, and weaker erections, all as a result of their self-gratification practices. Very few people alert you. My name is Catherine Rocker, MD. I have been a specialist in the sexual health of older men for more than 20 years. Every week, I assist men like you in overcoming the same obstacle in my clinic. The goal here is to empower you. There is more to masturbation than just good or negative. When done incorrectly, it causes emotional isolation, hormone disruption, and blood flow strain. When done correctly, it turns into a tool for strength. Technique, timing, and knowledge of your body's requirements are where the differences lie. In this video, I'll explain 6 unspoken dangers, how to turn this habit into a health benefit, and a 7-second natural way to regain your drive and firmness. Just age-appropriate, safe, and scientifically supported steps. No medications or prescriptions. If this information resonates with you, type 1 before we begin, or 0 if it is new to you. Every remark is read and we personally respond. For frank advice about elder health, click subscribe. Let's now identify the first danger. It affects your emotional health in unexpected ways. Let's discuss something that nobody seems to want to discuss aloud, particularly if you've been using masturbation as a short-term solution to stress or boredom. There's a subtle but potent drain on your energies that can rob you of your spark. Without even recognizing it, many older men are enmeshed in a personal cycle that erodes their power. Introducing Robert, a 68-year-old retired engineer. He started to feel a peculiar heaviness after a lifetime of overcoming difficult problems and taking delight in small things like woodworking and daily walks. He slept soundly. He was still taking the same drugs. But day after day, he was plagued by a profound tiredness. His strength was simply lacking when he attempted to return to his projects. "Doctor, I don't know what's happening to me," Robert said. "Every morning, I feel as though my battery was stolen overnight. I can't bring myself to discuss it." You might be surprised to learn how frequent that feeling of bewilderment and concealed embarrassment is. Know that this is not a moral failure if you have comparable feelings. It's a medical condition that needs consideration and respect. Robert's fatigue stems from a biological reality that most guys never discover. Your body may produce more cortisol, the stress hormone, if you masturbate frequently. Your system goes into high alert when cortisol is present, requiring energy to stabilize. Your metabolism falters, your recuperation lags, and what was once a harmless release begins to wear you down emotionally and physically. You are worthy of leading a strong and self-assured life. However, a subtle pattern can deprive you of both. The gradual drain on your vitality that occurs when masturbation gets too regular does more than just make you feel exhausted. It may cause a gradual deterioration with far-reaching effects. Your muscles become weaker, your endurance decreases, and your heart and brain function gradually deteriorate as a result of the lack of exercise that fatigue frequently causes. Even though each little drop in energy might not seem like much, they add up over time, making you more susceptible to infections, falls, and an unexpected loss of independence. Many men think that continuing to have sex will keep them healthy, powerful, and youthful. Although such belief is strong, it is not totally accurate. The truth is that your body's response to sexual release is altered by changes in hormones and metabolism. Frequent release can deplete the very mechanisms you rely on for stability and well-being, rather than recharging you. There's a more intelligent method to do this. To allow your body to recuperate, Try to limit your frequency to no more than 2 or 3 times per week. Give yourself days off in between sessions, and maintain the balance of your hormones by eating healthful meals and drinking enough water. Your brain is in far greater danger than the exhaustion your body underwent. After age 60, self-stimulation on a regular basis may cause your reward circuits to change, making you seek respite instead of relishing it. We now go from exhausted muscles to a neurological system that is ready for constant cravings. In addition to having a satisfying sexual life, you should be aware of the consequences of dopamine imbalance. The reward neurotransmitter dopamine functions differently in mature brains. As the years go by, dopamine handling receptors become less receptive. That implies that in order to experience the same spark you used to, you want additional stimulation. When your once satisfying behaviors become unsatisfying, you may find yourself repeating them more and more in an attempt to regain your previous level of satisfaction. Thomas, a 71-year-old former high school administrator, has always led an organized life with distinct rituals. However, he explained how masturbating became a daily need and ceased to feel like pleasure. It was no longer about pleasure, he said. Until I did it, it seemed like I couldn't think straight. I had never felt so out of control. Therefore, I was afraid of that. The true worry starts at this point. A private act becomes less about desire and more about stifling a restless longing. When it becomes a daily compulsion that robs you of your mental freedom, alienating you from your own objectives. Any stage is important for healthy sexual expression. However, your control begins to deteriorate after dopamine-driven cravings take over. A reward system that demands more to achieve the same return pushes one release into a ritual, which then multiplies daily. Your brain raises the bar for what feels gratifying, which causes this slippery slope. You are locked into a cycle by neuroadaptation that is increasingly difficult to escape. The repercussions extend well beyond the bedroom when frequent release continues to set off that reward circuit. Your enthusiasm for pastimes may subtly wane. The enthusiasm that formerly fueled hobbies like gardening, reading, or fixing things fades. The thoughts are vague. Focus strays, and you start to feel emotionally lifeless, as if your everyday existence is losing its color. Your body may still react, but the desire to interact with others tends to wane. You can discover that you are withdrawing from family, friends, and basic human interaction. The secret tragedy is that all the other pleasures and rewards you once valued fade into the background as the brain is trained to focus its needs on one thing: sexual release. Experts refer to this phenomenon as neurochemical hijacking. It occurs when your reward system begins to prioritize one specific craving over all other types of fulfillment. It directs all of the motivation towards a single, repetitive act rather than fostering a diverse, rich feeling of enjoyment via creativity, connection, or companionship. It's expensive. You feel as though release is the only spark remaining in the realm of ecstasy that surrounds you. However, there is still hope. Neuroplasticity is an amazing ability of your brain. No matter your age, it can help you reestablish better reward pathways. Regaining your equilibrium can be achieved by slowing down the pattern. Make an effort to separate sessions by at least one day. Exercise causes dopamine to rise more steadily, so move your body by going for a walk or doing a light workout. Rekindle a dormant pastime. Call a trusted person or pick up a book you've forgotten. By doing these things, you allow your brain to learn a more complex reward system that values creativity, connection, and purpose. There is much more to intimacy than just climax. It involves forming relationships, exchanging ideas, and savoring tender touch. You run the risk of stifling these more profound human experiences when you let masturbation be your sole source of solace. These changes may appear imperceptible, but they have a significant impact. Let's move on to a threat you cannot ignore now that we have revealed hidden changes in your brain. Your heart is suddenly under stress. This connection between severe cardiovascular spikes and private self-stimulation can be overlooked even by an experienced cardiologist. Frank had been using a strict regimen to control his high blood pressure for decades. He took his medicine on schedule, listened to his doctor's advice, and even checked how much salt and sugar he consumed. He was comfortable with his health at 72. However, he suddenly started to get dizzy spells, a pounding heartbeat, and pressure in his chest. Frank and his cardiologist were baffled by the fact that it didn't appear to fit any pattern. Concerned but perceptive, his wife discreetly kept tabs on these incidents. She saw a connection that Frank had been too ashamed to acknowledge. Shortly after his private sexual release, he began to experience these terrifying cardiac symptoms. Your cardiovascular system is under special stress during sexual arousal and climax. For a few intense moments, blood pressure and heart rate rise abruptly, causing a spike that even a consistent medication regimen might not be able to completely prevent. Those short increases might cause a vulnerable heart to overheat in men over 60 who have diabetes, hypertension, or any history of heart disease. He remained busy and kept his numbers under control, so Frank figured his heart was strong enough. However, a vigorous walk or doing everyday tasks during an orgasm is not the same as sexual exertion. In a matter of seconds, the heart can accelerate from 30 to 50 beats per minute, causing the blood pressure to rise dramatically. An aging, repaired, or stiffened circulatory system may find it difficult to withstand those increases, while a younger person's heart might. Consider it similar to an older vehicle. On a smooth roadway, you can drive it securely, but if you accelerate suddenly and forcefully, you may uncover a concealed engine flaw. The heart functions similarly. Even in a solo moment, the little spike in arousal might cause dangerous strain, although regular everyday activity feels fine. Masturbation tends to hit the system all at once, in contrast to exercise, which builds up gradually and allows the heart time to prepare. The surge of sexual tension, privacy, and secrecy can all add up to a heavy, erratic burden on your emotions. The cardiovascular system receives no warning when there is no pacing or warm-up, and that's where the true danger lies. Until anything goes wrong, these hidden dangers also frequently remain hidden. As a physician, I can tell you that we would prefer to assist you in managing these problems before a cardiac emergency sends you to the hospital. Simple actions like limiting the frequency of your sexual activity, maintaining a healthy level of intensity, and being honest with your physician can save your life and ensure that you can continue to enjoy sexual health for many years to come. You should not be ashamed to talk to your doctor about sex or masturbation. Particularly after the age of 60, these subjects are typical components of your health profile. Take it seriously if you ever experience dizziness, chest pain, an erratic heartbeat, or difficulty breathing during or after sexual release. Those symptoms could indicate a heart condition that should be checked right away. A brief discussion with your physician could save your life and enable you to confidently lead a secure, fulfilling, and private life. There is a connection between heart health and sexual well-being. They should be treated with the same deference as any other aspect of your health. Stay with me because the next section will examine an equally critical issue, even though we have just discussed serious cardiovascular risks. Overusing masturbation as a coping mechanism for stress or loneliness can subtly impair your emotional equilibrium, mental clarity, and even the sophisticated thinking you've developed over many years. Let me tell you about David, a 69-year-old who worked as a reputable accountant for many years. His biggest strength was his intellect. However, his family lately became aware of his lack of attention, distraction, and connection to those who were most important to him. David did the finest job of describing it. I would find it difficult to focus on anything else. I was unable to concentrate on talking to my grandchildren or even complete reading the newspaper since my thoughts kept coming back to me. It's not just a slip-up. When sexual release becomes your primary coping strategy, that is what occurs. After retirement, dealing with health issues or losing friends, it may begin modestly but eventually develop into a substitute for processing emotions. Older guys are more emotionally susceptible since they frequently go through significant changes, all at once. Instead of coming up with healthier coping mechanisms, your mind may become trapped in a repeated loop when masturbation becomes the most convenient form of comfort. Your brain gives you a dopamine and endorphin rush every time you achieve sexual release, which temporarily improves your mood. However, if you rely on that surge too often, your brain becomes less flexible, which leads to a rigid way of thinking and mental fog that erodes your ability to focus clearly. Be mindful of these cautionary indicators. If you can't achieve that sexual release, you can find it difficult to focus on simple chores, use masturbation as a coping mechanism, or feel agitated and nervous. Some guys even start to neglect their everyday obligations, interests, and relationships. Following the act, you may also have short-term memory loss or mental fog. It's critical to safeguard your emotional equilibrium and mental clarity. You have access to so much more than a never-ending cycle of regret and release. With easy-to-use yet effective tools, you can create a stronger foundation. To regain awareness of your breathing, try mindfulness exercises. To reduce stress and tension, take a regular stroll outside or learn Tai Chi. Use your energies to paint, compose music, or even write in a journal. Restore your sense of community by volunteering, meeting new people, or joining a neighborhood club. Speaking with a qualified counselor can also help you deal with difficult feelings like sadness or retirement changes if you're feeling stuck. These behaviors can interrupt the pattern of relieving discomfort solely through sexual pleasure. They create space for better, more adaptable approaches to dealing with disappointment and stress. When you give yourself permission to dwell with uncomfortable emotions rather than avoiding them all the time, you can grow emotionally. You still have the right to enjoy sexual pleasure, but it should not be your only source of solace, but rather a component of a larger, more complex emotional existence. The next issue shows up much more quickly, even if cognitive effects can develop gradually. It has an impact on your self-perception in the mirror and your confidence level throughout the day. I met James at my clinic. He had no qualms about losing a few hairs while taking a shower. He anticipated some thinning at 73. His father did, after all, go bald early. What worried him, though, was how fast the hair on his crown and around his temples began to fall out after just 6 months. Almost immediately, the smooth, healthy feel he had become accustomed to became rough and brittle. James approached me feeling humiliated, perplexed, and frustrated. Persuaded that there was nothing he could do, he attributed it to aging and family DNA. However, I noticed patterns that weren't consistent with typical male pattern baldness. His hair loss progressed too quickly, indicating that the damage was being subtly accelerated by another source. We discovered a startling detail after careful consultation. In retirement, James had increased his sexual activity and used self-gratification as a regular way to decompress. At first glance, that appeared innocuous. However, this behavior led to recurrent spikes in hormones, transient increases in testosterone, and, most importantly, dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. In guys who are genetically susceptible, DHT functions as a quiet saboteur. It progressively shrinks your hair follicles by binding to their receptors. The follicles eventually shrink to the point that they no longer produce hair at all. Usually, it takes years for this to come to pass. However, that process quickens with regular, recurrent hormone surges, striking your scalp more forcefully and quickly than you ever imagined. Particularly in retirement, if you have a daily masturbation practice, you may be unwittingly contributing to those hormonal fluctuations. You don't have to suppress your sexuality because of that. It does imply that you ought to consider the wider picture. Your actions can accelerate the process, but your genes set the foundation. James didn't want to hear another lecture about fate. He wanted a solution. So step by step, we developed a workable plan. You can begin making easy, practical changes right now if you're in a similar situation and have noticed that your hair feels thinner following weeks of regular sexual release. To assist in stabilizing your hormone swings, try cutting down to once every other day or even less frequently. Over a few weeks, record your hair's reaction in a tiny journal. The distinction may surprise you. Next, discuss your medical choices with your physician. By blocking DHT, medications such as finasteride can slow down the loss of hair follicles that deprives you of healthy strands. It can buy you time and keep your confidence intact, but it's not magic. Beyond medicine, consider how your everyday routines either help or hinder your hormones. Consume foods high in lean proteins, zinc, and biotin. These aid in stabilizing the strength of your hair at the cellular level. Engage in consistent, moderate exercise to stay active. Swimming, light weightlifting, and walking all improve circulation and lower the stress hormone cortisol, which can also upset your hormonal balance. Stress management is more complex than you may imagine. Your whole hormone system, including testosterone and DHT, is impacted by emotional concerns and ongoing stress. Stress signals can be reduced by using techniques like breathing exercises, social interactions, or your favorite pastimes. This will protect your hair and give you more energy. Keep in mind that mild masturbation is harmless on its own. All you have to do is figure out a routine that promotes your well-being without throwing your hormones off balance. Consider it as honoring your body's cues rather than disregarding them. Instead of allowing these signals to influence you, you maintain control by identifying them. Everything changed for James when he realized that his sexual behavior was the cause of his hair loss. He began to view baldness as a clue rather than a punishment. A clue that let him feel more comfortable with himself, protect his confidence, and balance his life. Hair loss mostly impacts your appearance, but the next issue directly impacts your sexual health, and that risk has the potential to further erode your confidence. Now let's discuss it, because what takes place downstairs has the power to alter your daily life. As they progress through different phases of life, men frequently anticipate slight modifications in their intimate talents. However, what I'm going to disclose goes well beyond normal wear and tear. The secret is that your brain can actually be trained to seek a single, particular pattern of pleasure through frequent, severe self-stimulation. Additionally, your erection might not cooperate completely when that pattern shifts, such as when you attempt to connect with a new partner. The 66-year-old Michael is all too familiar with this frustration. He wanted to regain his sexuality in order to feel alive again after a long marriage ended. Even though he was extremely aroused, he became aware that his erections felt weaker and dissipated more rapidly, and that he was anxious that he might not succeed in front of a new person. That kind of disappointment erodes a man's self-esteem and makes dating seem like going into battle without any armor. To be clear, This is more than just a slow blood flow or a decrease in testosterone. Of course, things are important, but your brain is where the main problem lies. You can hardwire your arousal to follow a particular path by consistently stimulating yourself in a single, predictable method. The brain finds it difficult to switch gears when the scene or tempo changes, as it does in real-life intimacy. Consider it this way. Your nervous system develops a deep groove as a result of your repeated habits. Every solo release session deepens that groove. Therefore, your arousal becomes trapped in the previous pattern and refuses to take a different route when you wish to have an intimate relationship with someone. Doctors refer to such as weakening the quality of an erection. Erections that require stronger or more specialized triggers to maintain their strength, firmness that fades, and an uneasy feeling that strikes you in the stomach during partner sex. According to many men, they function well by themselves, but everything falls apart as soon as a partner enters the picture. This discrepancy is embarrassing and eventually saps the desire for intimacy completely. In actuality, though, you are not broken. You're not a failure. Your brain is only adjusting to repetition as a result of these changes. The good news is that you may progressively retrain your sexual reactions to restore your arousal pathways. You are able to escape the trap. Let's go over a detailed, step-by-step plan of action that you can implement right now. First, take 7 to 14 days off from all forms of sexual activity, including masturbation. Consider this a reset for the natural sexual wiring in your body. Your brain circuits and nerves are able to recover their sensitivity and react to new, varied stimuli during that break. When you start having sex again, change things up. Vary your tempo, experiment with different angles, and use a gentler touch. Retraining your mind and body to react more freely, as they would with a genuine partner, is made easier by breaking those old, repeated behaviors. Next, practice mindfulness to slow down. Observe all of your bodily sensations. Allow the experience to develop instead of hurrying to the peak. You continue to reinforce those limited habits that have eroded your arousal pathways if you merely pursue fantasy or rush. Next, start adding partner-like stimulation components. You could replicate shared intimacy with sounds, gestures, or textures. These minor adjustments aid in reestablishing your desire in relation to a more satisfying and realistic sexual style. Lastly, shift your attention. Focus on the enjoyment of the whole experience, from arousal to connection to the sense of presence, rather than just the orgasm. Allowing yourself to enjoy the journey rather than just the destination allows your sexual system to regain its full spectrum of feeling and function. Let's now draw attention to anything important. Even at a later age, the male body may adapt with remarkable resilience. Usually, what feels stuck or damaged is merely a pattern that can be gradually and gently altered. Patience, empathy, a willingness to try new things, and the conviction that, with careful planning, sex can definitely get better. The keys are these. Many of my patients have had significant improvements as a result of using this strategy. Increased confidence, stronger, more consistent erections, and a stronger bond with their partners. Their experiences serve as a reminder that, despite being stuck in the same pattern for a long time, the body and mind can be reawakened. Here's one explanation why this issue goes unnoticed. It gradually increases. Repeated solitary stimulation. Linked to poor erection quality doesn't happen all at once. It progresses slowly until you sense nervousness in the bedroom or feel cut off from genuine connection. Compare this to strengthening a bridge. It might require some work, some care, and the appropriate techniques. But once it's fixed, it can lead you into fulfilling linked closeness with even more strength and assurance. There is no right or wrong way to describe masturbation after the age of 60. It's only a tool, one that is dependent upon your usage preferences. Over time, that decision can either boost your self-esteem or sap your vitality. Because your happiness and health still deserve to be protected, they merit serious consideration and awareness. It's not necessary to leave out your favorite things or give up enjoyment throughout this stage of life. It's about approaching situations more thoughtfully, intentionally, and wisely than in the past. You have the opportunity to write a new chapter that will be more fulfilling and meaningful. Your body is still reacting. You still have value in your desire. These aren't relics from your childhood. They are currently alive components of you. By making a few minor changes to your routine, you may turn private moments from something that makes you feel down to something that actually makes you feel better. Masturbation can be transformed from a cause of regret or annoyance into a source of vitality and well-being with a little concentration. Stay with me if this topic resonated with you. In a future video, I'll be providing a straightforward, organic method that has already given many guys their strength, purpose, and sexual energy back. You may even see a shift for the better tomorrow morning. Let's discuss it. Enjoyed the tips? Hit that subscribe button and stay strong naturally with Senior Health Vibe.